Hello, I am so glad you are back listening today. I'm going to be talking about the emotion that nobody seems to be naming with the back to school transition for pretty much every single mom I've come into contact with over the last couple of weeks and consistently year after year. And I think back to school just augments this emotion, but this emotion can show up, I think, whenever we're aware that either our kiddo is going through a big developmental stage or a big transition, or maybe right after, like once they've gotten through it, and then we realize like they're getting older, they're getting bigger, and life is changing and time is moving on. And I think that naming the emotion that I think is dominant in this transition can be a really helpful tool and some clues in order how to navigate the transition and the back to school vibe within yourself and with your family, as well as we can. And in conversations with moms, they're not using the key emotion word that I'm about to reveal to you just in a few minutes. So just sit tight and hang with me for a second. But they are naming a lot of different emotional experiences that I think occur underneath the umbrella of this key emotion word. So this is what I'm hearing. And I'm curious if you can hear yourself. Anywhere in the push and pull of these feelings. So on one end of the spectrum, I'm hearing moms often talking in a way that reminds me of the word of nostalgia. This back to school vibe can be really nostalgic. We can even remember our own experiences of being a kid and that back to school ramp up, whether we're remembering with fondness or we're remembering with dread, depending on what that back to school vibe was for us as a little one. But I think that nostalgia is more than just like reliving the past. It's more about thinking with some acuity in this present moment, like, whoa, my kiddo is more capable. My kiddo is changing. My kiddo is now in a new phase, whether I believe he or she are ready for it or not. This back to school transition is full of nostalgia for our kids' childhoods, for the years we've had with them and the things that we have loved about them when they were littler than they are right now. And this back to school is a reminder they're growing. They're approaching a year older. They're continuing to move forward. And a big part of our hearts is still like longing for the good parts of the past or weirdly nostalgic for the time that we're actually living right now. I don't know if any of you can relate to that, but that feeling of like what's happening right now is so precious and I'm already pre-missing it. Like I'm already thinking about myself in the future, looking back on this summer or this age and missing the parts of it that are really lovable and enjoyable. And so when we're on that nostalgic end of the emotional experience, then sometimes we feel like a fear or a panic or a regret. Like we're afraid that the minutes are going by too fast or we're panicked that we're not going to have a good connection or a good feeling with our kids, or we're just aching and grieving, not wanting to let go of what has been good. Or we might feel regret when we look back at like this summer, for example, like, oh, I wish I would have jumped in more bodies of water. Or, oh, I wish I would have taken time to blow more bubbles with my kiddo. Or, oh, I wish I would have really savored it and not just gotten through each week of camp, each week of daycare, each week of vacation, each week of whatever it was that filled your summer. And so on kind of this end of the spectrum, there are these deep feelings of wanting to savor and really enjoy and really emphasizing the good that we wish didn't feel like it was changing with either the reminder that our kiddo is getting older or the start to school. Okay, now let's swing ourselves over to another end of this experience of being ready to watch our kids go back to school. And you might be listening to this after your kids have already gone to school, or you might be listening to this when it's released the week that my son is going back to school, but maybe you've got a little bit of a longer summer to go. But I think that this kind of tension, this emotion that comes with the back to school occurs a little bit anticipatory before it actually occurs. And I think it lingers a little bit as we're getting adjusted to the new schedule and getting our feet underneath us and coming to terms with just where we are and where our kiddos are at. So regardless of where your kid is in the entering school transition, I'm wondering if you can relate to this second category, which has to do with relief. Oh, I am kind of relieved that the long, long days or the maybe too much lack of schedule or too little social time for your kids or whatever the pain points are for you in the summer, every family is different. And so I think moms carry a lot of guilt around either this nostalgia or this relief that you probably feel because you think that it should be different than it is. I should be enjoying the summer more than I am, or I should be sad that my kids are going to the next grade when I'm kind of not. I'm kind of excited for them and excited for the opportunities for us. Or, we could should all over ourselves as moms based off of just what we're genuinely feeling. We think that there's a best way to feel or a right way to feel. And we increase our suffering when we either speed past our feelings or we get kind of stuck in a negative story about what our feelings actually are. So that's why I really like to talk about all the feels on this podcast to hopefully normalize what many women are going through in this stage of life and to put words to the experience and hopefully provide some strategies that make the experience more connected, increase your capacity and help you feel more just creative and capable to get through this kind of full on but full hearted experience of midlife motherhood. So since every family's situation is different, the feelings around the relief look different. So some families have very little childcare support, jobs that have very little flexibility, circumstances with aging parents or kid-specific needs that make it so that the structure of school is actually a relief and actually a support and a gift to families. It kind of smooths out some of the chunky parts so that more connection and more energy for connection is possible. So sometimes the back to school is relieving. But there might be other reasons why you're relieved that your kiddo is going back to school. And I think that vacillation between wishing you had more time, wishing you could have more of the positive experiences, and then swinging over toward kind of looking forward to the change, looking forward to a change in the climate, maybe with the fall, and just ready for something new and some relief and being away from your kiddo. I think that vacillation is very common. And that vacillation, in my opinion, comes under the umbrella of one key emotion. And that emotion, my friend, is the emotion of ambivalence. I think ambivalence is a primary emotional experience for mothers as they are experiencing a big transition and change with their kiddos and or with the schedule in the back to school vibe. And I think that most of us don't really know what ambivalence is. So I can't wait to let you know about one of my favorite emotions because it's such a juicy one and one rife with opportunity for self-knowledge, self-compassion, and personal growth and connection with other women who totally get the ambivalent vibe. Now, this is what I think most people think ambivalence is. They think it's not knowing what they want, or indecision, or not caring. Oh, I'm ambivalent. I don't really care. I hear that word ambivalent used in those two circumstances. And to me, that's not the definition of what ambivalence is. It's not caring and it's not knowing what you want. It is actually the emotional experience of wanting multiple things all at the same time. It's actually about caring about a lot of different things all at once and being pulled, kind of pulled apart almost, pulled or swinging from one thing that we care about to another. And that ambivalence talks about the ache of that stretch, the ache of caring deeply about different things and wanting, fully wanting maybe some diametrically opposed things all at the same time. Like we want to keep our kiddos young and sweet and small and in our lives in a really specific way that when we look back at fondness, or even we look at what's happening right now with fondness, that part of us would love to keep it this way and wants more of the good that's here. That's not wrong. That's just real. It's a genuine desire, even if it's not possible. That desire is real. And then in the back to school circumstance or transition, there's another desire, which is to see your kid grow and overcome the things that are challenging for them and to step into who they are and to learn and connect with other kiddos and really develop a healthy sense of self. And the only way to do that is to allow them to keep having experiences where they grow separately and independently. And so maybe you really want that for your kiddo. And then maybe another thing that you really want is if you get any relief with the school schedule, you really want to sink into little pockets of time to get caught up on things that kind of fell through the cracks in the summer, or to find a better self-care routine, or to kind of shake up the way you're doing things so you have more space for your own growth, your own creative evolution and change. Most moms want more closeness, more quality time with their kids. They also want more closeness and more quality time with themselves. They want more closeness and more quality time with the people in their lives that are not their kids that they care about. They want their kids to be healthy and productive and growing and moving forward. We want all of these things all at the same time. And it's really common for them to have some areas of overlap where it's all happening kind of at the same time. But ambivalence is the feeling of knowing you're in one of those moments where it doesn't overlap, where you can just fully want two things at the same time that can't happen exactly at the same time. We want more of those summer vibes and all the good that came, but we can't stop time, and we need for things to continue and move forward. And we want for things to continue and move forward. But we also want to go back and redo some of the parts of summer and have a little bit more. And I'm wondering if these examples are resonating with you, or maybe you could create your own that represent to you what is the ambivalence I'm feeling during this transition, during this like seasonal, some late summer to early fall. It's not like one day that happens. I don't think we've got that fall equinox, but really it's like a period of time. So, what is the ambivalence? Wanting multiple, maybe even opposing things all at the same time. Or what is that ambivalence you're feeling if you're witnessing your kiddo going from one developmental stage to another? Or what is the ambivalence you're feeling with those back to school kind of preparations and then the first week and then getting in settled into a new normal in the fall? What ambivalence exists for you there? I just think that back to school time, even if your kiddo is not yet in school, is a reminder that your kid is growing and time is moving forward. And guess what? My friend, you are growing right alongside your kiddo. There's a forward momentum to your story co-occurring right alongside theirs. There may be some relief and excitement about that. There may be some nostalgia and longing with that. But guess what? You don't actually have to when you're honoring ambivalence fully. You don't have to choose one camp or the other, camp relief or camp nostalgia. You don't have to choose between the two. I'd recommend that you don't. I'd rather you open yourself up to the full range of your experience and allow both to coexist within you. And the goal is to not see any pain that you might have in either camp as a problem to solve, but more like just see yourself as like a sunset to appreciate and to explore, just to witness the change, witness the emotions moving through in the cycle that they're going to move through. There's nothing we can do about the pain of the longing from the past, and there's no guilt tripping necessary for the relief in getting to embrace a new opportunity when the school or fall schedule comes into full gear. You don't really need to pick a feeling here. You can just respect under the umbrella of ambivalence, just a push and pull, achy, excited, kind of scrambled up type of feeling. And we want to practice relating to it with whatever skill we have and to maybe commit to growing our skillfulness and embracing and welcoming in all parts of ourselves and being more comfortable even with our kind of pushy pull feelings like ambivalence tends to be. So I think that moving well or moving skillfully through ambivalence is not about like resolving it, like needing it to go away or be resolved, but rather just about the approach you take as you're holding yourself in it. Being able to name our emotions with specificity, like ambivalence. I'm feeling pulled in a couple different directions and taking a minute now while you're thinking about it or take a few minutes after this podcast is over to think what is the ambivalence? Like what are the different things that I want that can't co-occur exactly at the same time? What are the kind of conflicting feelings I'm having under this umbrella of ambivalence? We want to kind of locate ourselves with respect and compassion, noticing what's true for you right now without judging it as right or wrong or imagining there is a better way that you could be feeling or experiencing the ambivalence. And just kind of like allow that tug. I think that that's one of the trickier parts of this feeling for me is like it pulls, like usually an emotion provides information in it that kind of can guide your path or give you a clue about what you're really needing and wanting and allow you to move forward in that way. And ambivalence is one where it like pulls in opposite directions kind of at the same time. So I think it's about rather than going in one direction or another, it's more about widening your lens, kind of increasing your internal capacity. I like to talk about emotional capacity being like a river going through a canyon. And you could imagine a canyon with very narrow walls and a big volume of water trying to push its way through it. And we can also imagine widening those canyon walls, getting them nice and spread out. And then that same volume of water or that same emotional quality or tone has a little bit more space and ease as it moves its way through. So we want to kind of widen our lens or widen our capacity to allow ourselves, like hand over heart, the moments of nostalgia and allow yourself to swing even in the same moment, hand over heart, those moments of relief and excitement about what's to come. One thing that helps me with ambivalence is not over focusing on my kid and what I feel about them, but more widening the lens to include me and really thinking about as my kid is going through this transition back to school for the timing of this episode, what is the invitation for me? What is the opportunity here for me? Because your kiddo isn't just moving into a new stage. You are invited to grow this season as well. So if there's one thing you want to focus on in your own growth, your own inner well-being, As soon as you get into the new routine and get your kids settled in and get used to waking up at a certain time and getting everybody out the door at a certain time, like as soon as you get those systems in place, let's not rush to fill the space with more productivity or more things to do, but let's actually create a little more space and a pause. If we're going with that river analogy, kind of eddy out to the side of the river, find a slow moving, quiet part on the side of the flow of life to get curious about what your growth opportunity is moving into September. And I think actually you can use the clues that ambivalence points to as source material for where the juicy bits of your life are that you either want to keep doing or you want to grow into might be. When you're looking at nostalgia, there's some juicy bits there. When you're looking at the relief, there's some juicy bits there. And you can kind of mine for the deep desires and the spectrum of ambivalence that kind of emerge to the surface to you. And that might bring a little bit more clarity for your own personal focus moving into the next season. So I'd love to hear from you, my friend. Is this the first time you've heard this definition of ambivalence? What do you think about it? What do you think might help you as you're not trying to resolve the ambivalence or rush past it or kind of get lost in it, but rather what would help you to move through it? Wrapping your arms around the fullness of the ambivalent experience and the multitude of emotions you're having. And another question, who might you bring into your corner or into your inner circle of experience that might kind of hold the breadth of that ambivalence with you? Because, my friend, I know you're not the only midlife mom in your world who's feeling the way that you are. As always, if you have made it all the way to the end of this podcast, I so appreciate your time, your attention, and the generosity of your presence in this like virtual platform. So thank you so much for being here. And I cannot wait to connect with you again next week.